Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokatz, and welcome to my Tuesday evening live stream show, Communications from Home, right here at Star Nations. I'm so glad you guys can be with us tonight because I've been looking forward to this for days, literally days, because I don't necessarily always get to spend a whole lot of time with the authors in Star Nations. We do calls in between and that sort of thing. So tonight is kind of special because we get to hang out together. And this show is all about the authors at Star Nations, the four ladies, women authors who, I want to say we have the bravery and courage to step out there and say, yes, I want to do a book. I want to publish a book. And me having the opportunity and the gift really to be able to, an appreciation to be able to help them to do that. And so tonight we have with us four women authors, each of them very unique, very unique. We have two children's books authors, and we also have two authors who took all of the articles that they've written for Star Nations magazine and we turned it into a book. And so we have with us tonight live with us Minnie Kansman and Ortrun Franklin, and we're going to be sharing about Julie Hedges and Madonna De Palo because both ladies couldn't join us tonight, but we still get to talk about their books. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm so glad you guys could be here with us tonight. And first of all, I am going to share a little bit about my good friend. And I got to get my notes up here so I make sure I say all the stuff that I wanted to say. And so first of all, we're going to bring Minnie Kansman on. She was our second published author at Star Nations, and she lives in Colorado. And she, in fact, just by a couple of years, and when she moves from Michigan to Colorado, that was one of the things that I think helped us to really kind of focus in on what does she really want to do, right? And so her book was already published at that point. But we really wanted to know, what does Minnie want to do as an author? So she shares her room with her two furry children, her dog and her cat, and also her husband, Rain. She is a master feng shui consultant educator, and as well as a certified nature and forest therapy guide. She lives lightly on the land and honors the power of spirit in all things, and I can attest to that. She is also an author of her very first book, which is called Spirit Gardens: Rekindling Our Nature Connection, and her title of her book that she published with us is Missing Nana. And Missing Nana is for all children. It's a children's book who have faced the death of a significant person in their lives. It shares an emotional, loving, and playful glimpse into the world of nature, offering a unique perspective of how this unseen world assists us every day. And so with that, I would like to bring Minnie on with me. You can do that. Oh, what did I do? Oh, there she is. Hi, Minnie.
Hi, Neshi.
Good to have you here, lady.
Wow, this feels like old times.
Doesn't it, though? It really does. It really does. And so I'm going to bring Ortrun on. Okay, so hold on just a second while I let everybody know about Ortrun. Mm-hmm. And Ortrun is our most recent author published. And Ortrun, what she does, I'm going to get her bio up. Now, Ortrun has a very deep and rich life experience. I don't know if you guys really know much about Ortrun's background, but she fled the Russians with her family at the age of 2 months out of Germany during World War II. And then she crossed the Atlantic Ocean here to America. Her dad passed away when she was very young, when she was 14. And she says that she retreated to her church where Ortrun experienced solace while in prayer. So she began meditation very, very early in life. She began teaching and leading meditations. If you have ever attended one of her meditations or listened to them on her live stream shows, you know that her voice brings such a peace and calming and harmony. She quickly became the sought-after voice to set the tone of conferences and seminars throughout North America. She has CDs with her meditations on them. And she was also a Coptic minister. In 1978, she became ordained. Experiencing Egypt is one of the strengths that Ortrun has. And she actually has been to Egypt and has deepened that desire that she had to understand the mysteries. She founded the Key of Life, the mystery school, in 2011. Ortrun instructs seekers about the path of the mystery schools and assists individuals on their ascension path as a meditation practitioner, chakra blockage clearing practitioner, intuitive spiritual coach, and disembodied spirit emissary. She is here with us. I'm going to want to tell you about her book too. I almost forgot that part. The name of her book is Key of Life: Integrating Ancient Truths into the Modern World. It's a compilation of the articles that Ortrun has written for Star Nations magazine. And she's also been a student of the spiritual and metaphysical teachings in the ancient Egyptian schools for over 40 years. She's traveled to Egypt, plus utilizing meditation has connected Ortrun with her past lives in Egypt. She shares her knowledge as an esoteric Egyptologist, a Coptic minister, and the founder of the Key of Life Mystery School. In Ortrun's book, Key of Life, she gently leads you into discovering who it is you truly are. She shares glimpses of her life as examples on how to connect with spirit through meditation and intertwining ancient truths into her daily life. Her intent for the reader of her book is to recognize the connection of outer life experience with your inner knowing, all the while more fully understanding that they are part of the whole. And so reading the Key of Life will enhance your life experience and assist you in your spiritual growth. And so with that, we're going to bring Ortrun on. And Ortrun is here with us through audio. Hi, Ortrun. Welcome to the show. Huh? I know. It is fine. We have actually I'm using your bio picture that we used in the book. And so, it's the one with the Ankh in the background. Yeah, I like that picture of you. So, so ladies, I wanted to reintroduce the authors from Star Nations to our audience tonight, because, well, we have been living a really unique kind of life experience in this past year with COVID-19 and having to wear masks and not be able to get out as much. And so now that things are kind of opening up and people are able to get out as a little bit more, life is kind of moving forward. We're not so much in that, I want to call it limbo, in that space of quietness and stillness. And so we're moving forward. And so with that, I thought that we could share about your books and why would you even become an author, so that our audience, maybe they can take away something from your stories and your experiences into a place where maybe they might want to either publish a book, start a book, kind of hone in on what they want to do with the next chapters of their life. So the first question I have for the two of you, because you come from two different areas, two different ways of coming in as an author. Minnie comes in with a book that was different from the information, a children's book, from some of the things that you were doing at that time, although it's bringing in your background working with spirit. And Ortrun bringing in all those many articles that she wrote for the magazine and bringing those together. What you both have in common is that it was all channeled work for the both of you. So I'm going to offer you this first question. What made you decide to write just plain write, not even with the book, but just say that I want to write something. And so we're going to start off with Minnie. Minnie, if you could take that question.
Okay. Well, with my first book, Spirit Gardens, I think that was the first jumping off. That was the scariest one. The first one, I think, is. I knew I wanted to write, when I started studying feng shui, I knew that it applied to gardens, that there was a way to apply it to gardens really well. And I was very interested in that aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for books, back in 1996. There were hardly any books about feng shui, let alone feng shui gardening. And I kept waiting for someone to write a really good feng shui book.
Mm-hmm.
And people would write the books and I would read them and go, but that's not all of it. That's not it. That's not what I was experiencing. So I came to the realization that no one was going to write my book for me. I had to write the book that I heard and was, yes, definitely channeled. I would get woken up at 2 a.m. and have to write for a few hours, not edit anything, and go back to sleep. And in the morning I would edit it. But I needed to write that book because the information needed to be in the world. Just say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
With the Nana book, I'd already come, when you write a book, a spiritual book, especially, you come out to all your relatives. You come out to everybody about what you believe. It's not just writing a simple little fiction book. It's sharing all your beliefs, and so Spirit Gardens, that I got the scary part out. So the Missing Nana book was like, okay, let's just keep going with this spiritual path of who Minnie is. Mm-hmm. And that book was near and dear to my heart because I wrote it as I was watching my mother age and her becoming I knew she was going to pass soon. I knew she was. And so I started that book while she was dying. Actually got to read a very rough copy of it to her when she was in hospice. But I finished it after. I don't think I finished it till maybe a whole year after she was gone, because I was grieving and I knew I wanted to write about that grieving piece. And yes, I wrote this book for children, but many, many adults tell me that this book has helped them through their grieving process too. So that book really, as much as Spirit Gardens has my life and soul in it, this Missing Nana has my emotions in it, and how there's physical actions that, the book, it sounds like Sylvia, the 12-year-old, is experiencing, but I, as an adult, was experiencing those experiences I wrote about, like with the fireflies all coming around me. That happened the day after a death of my business partner and dear friend, Susie Anderson. So, all my stories of grief got put into that book, as well as with my mom. So it's a pouring of your heart, and just letting it be in the world, and whoever is supposed to resonate with it will, and letting go of that fear of judgment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it takes courage, I think. I know it takes courage to put yourself out there and let people see parts of you that you might not have done otherwise. Mm-hmm. And even though if you did that with your very first book, Missing Nana also brought up other things that you wouldn't have covered in Spirit Gardens. And so you're still kind of going, okay, see, this is another part of myself that you haven't seen yet.
Right. Yeah. Right. Once you start, you might as well just keep going,
Keep going. Oh, okay. And I'm going to offer the same question to Ortrun. like I said, you're both coming from completely different ways of writing your book. But I think that there's some commonalities in there too. So Ortrun, what prompted you to begin writing and becoming an author? Mhm, mhm, mm,
I thought, I can't do this. This is not what I'm supposed to be writing about. And so I basically put the book aside and really let it go. And I have not gotten back to it, to tell you the truth. But in the meantime, I was asked to start writing articles for Star Nations magazine. And
ah,
I thought, wow, I'm not sure about this. I just didn't really know if I could do that. I mean, I know I could, but you know how it is. So I started doing these articles. And as time went on, what I started doing is incorporating some of my life things, like some of my life experiences, some as a child and some as I grew up, into the articles that I was writing. And then the more and more that I started with that type of writing, I started to recognize how much we grow from what's put in front of us. One
mhm,
of my examples always is the one I have on freedom in my book. And I speak a little bit about myself, and I talk about us coming. We were on a ship. It was an army transport ship that we came in across to the United States. But as we came into New York Harbor, there was the Statue of Liberty, and the
mm,
excitement of rushing up on the deck of the boat. Everyone was just so excited about being here and coming into this place, the United States. The United States, which was basically said to be the streets being paved with gold. I was a little girl. I was only 7 years old when this was occurring, and it was just so exciting. But when I saw the Statue of Liberty and then really feeling we're free. We are free. And so that was my sense, probably my best sense of what freedom was like at that particular time. But
mhm,
then as time went on and I started my spiritual path, I realized there's so much more to freedom than this outer freedom, what I think of as freedom. So that's when I sort of started formulating many of my writings as to outer experience and bringing them into a deeper level of understanding where by taking whatever it is you experience within and then recognizing with there's outer freedom, but there's also soul liberation. And
mhm,
then with that soul liberation, I try and enforce that a little bit more by leading people in meditation. So every article that I have has with it a meditation to bring them from the outer to the inner. So basically, it was a journey for myself, really, just a reminder, on one hand, as to what I had experienced in my life. So it was more of a reflection also, and like I said, as a child, even some of the stories relate to that, and some of the things about my parents and experience. So it was always basically, though, to me, it was like, wow, this is the outer. Look at the outer, but look what more meaning there is to the picture that we see right in front of us. And so that's really the what it was based on, is that, and it was based on my journey of higher consciousness. And as Minnie said, with her first book, you really are showing yourself. You're opening yourself up and showing everyone who it is you are and what you've experienced. And it was all fine and dandy when you're writing in small portions, just one article at a time. But then Neshi so lovingly helped me put this book together, and we took all of these articles and sifting through these articles, which ones I felt would be appropriate and how to align them and so on. When it was published, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally revealing my inner journey.
Right.
Whoever reads that book. And I felt extremely vulnerable at that time. All of a sudden I felt, oh my gosh. But that was not very long lived. It was, as Minnie said, it was, well, whoever's meant to read it will read it.
Right.
And whoever, I've not heard anything negative about it, but there are some people that have read it that have absolutely no interest in, metaphysics. So I wish they would really let me know what they think. But I haven't heard. But it was really a growing experience for me. So it was starting basically writing down things about, because I do have a history. Everyone has a history. I believe everyone should be an author. I would encourage every one of you to write, if nothing else, a memoir or something, so that individuals can actually, or loved ones and family members can see who you are, because this is really like a legacy, I mean, Minnie, your books are your legacy. And even my granddaughter, she said, this is your legacy about you, our legacy about you. And so, and everyone has amazing experiences, and everyone's is so unique. So I would really encourage everyone to, even if they don't publish it, to write it, to hand it on to your family. So that's really what I came down to after, with this author, when he said he wanted me to do this, I thought, well, who am I really writing this for? Am I writing this for him? Yes, maybe I could have done really well with it, and it could have gotten on, who knows, the bestseller list. I don't know. But the thing is that I thought, that's not really who I'm writing it for. I'm writing this for, first of all, my family, and also for others to be able to hopefully gain something for themselves so they can move forward in their journey.
Yeah. And thank you for that, really, Ortrun and Minnie, because I think that I love doing these kind of conversations, because we never know how Spirit's going to express it, right? And so here we are with something that I didn't realize that might come up, and that is how you open yourself up and that vulnerability when you choose to be a published author. But that shouldn't stop anybody by writing their life story and how things open up. And some people might call it a journal, Yeah. And here's this, is that what you've both done as women authors, number one, have you ever thought of put yourself in that category? Because, when I come up with hashtags to, promote shows in the magazine, and that's in your books, and I have from the beginning with both your books using the hashtag woman author, because that I think that holds some bit of power, empowerment to that. Not to say that men aren't good authors, but I think that there's a certain feeling that comes across with a woman author. There's that. So with both of you, with your writing, there's the similarity that you both have, and that's being the information being channeled. And so if you could share with our audience about your experience with being a channel for spirit with your writing. Because I have a feeling that there's some people who do this and they don't realize that they're doing it. So we're going to start with Ortrun first this time around. Ortrun, can you share your experience with us as you were writing the articles and also pulling them together, because you wrote some other things for the book to pull them all together, with that channeling and that information coming from spirit?
Well, what I experience is very similar to when I lead a meditation or, well, first of all, with the meditation, I always really open myself up to spirit, because I want to, allow whatever is meant to be said to be spoken through me. And basically, that's what I did when I was writing an article too. It was basically place myself in that space where I would allow spirit to flow through me. It's just something I've done quite naturally on one hand, because as you mentioned, I started meditating quite early, and I don't even think I realized I was meditating at that time. It was only later that I realized in life that I was actually meditating, and I already knew how to do this and how easy, it was for me. But the same thing with when you allow spirit to flow through, it's like those of you that do healing work, you're given more and more and more. And so you may start out with just a small little topic or a few words about something, but as it goes on, there are just other thoughts, interesting ideas and thoughts that come flowing in. So it keeps building on itself. So that's the way that I channel. Now I have another part of me that, because truly my other part is I was a systems analyst for years. So I'm very logical also. So, and I feel that what I say, I like to give some credibility to it also. Because another thing I try to weave into my book was how similar things are, how they're similar in the religions and the philosophies and all the different mysteries of the various places, whether it's Hindu or whether it's Islam, or whether it's the Native American, the indigenous. So there's the truths are there. They're all there. And so I wanted to try and weave that together somehow and show that we are part of the whole in that sense. So with that, I also did do research. I had to do research on that because I needed to have things that were specific. And it's interesting because I would have some people doing my editing for me, and some that were editors in one particular, he was in the computer field. And he would check me out on everything I said to make sure that was using a date, that it was correct. So there was also that part of me where many people, like Carl, my husband, he channels and that's it. There's nothing like that in there. He doesn't reference anything. Where for me, because of the way my brain works, I feel like I need to have a balance of both sides. So,
which is good.
So it was a combination of that channeling and allowing spirit to flow through. But then there were things that I did also want to see. Look, because I want people to read it and realize, wow, there's not much different here.
Right.
And we know that. We really do know that.
Yeah.
Probably everyone listening here actually knows that. But if someone does pick up that book and doesn't know that, then they can get a little bit of an impression of, okay, wow, the truths or the principles of the Egyptian philosophies and even in your mystic churches or the Jewish religions and like I said, the Hindu. I mean, they're similar. I mean, they're almost the same words.
Yeah.
So look at this. We're one. We're united. We're all part of that wheel. That we're those spokes in that wheel, all going to that same place. So that was another part of what I was trying to get across in this book. So I have a combination of the meditation and the flowing, and allowing it to be channeled, but yet I did also do some things that were very logical.
Well, and it really did come through very clearly in your book. And and that's what I meant about that you did some additional writings, not just the articles, because those were pretty well researched as well. But there were other things that you went back and filled in so that it would have more of a flow to it.
Exactly.
Right. And so, yeah. So I'm going to pass the talking stick over to Minnie with the same question about the channeling piece.
So, like I started to say about Spirit Gardens, that book, well, I had young children at the time when I was writing that book. So if I tried to write it during the day, there would be interruptions, and I would be getting the information coming in or a channel of thought, and then someone would walk in my office and ask a question, and then it would be gone. And that was very frustrating for me. So I tried to do that, but it ended up that, I guess we worked out a system where my guides would wake me up at night. I would get to sleep, from 11 to about 2 a.m. So I'd get some sleep from my physical body, and then I would be woken up, and I could go back to sleep until I got up and wrote. And then I was in very much of a, kind of a dream trance state, really. And I would write. And again, I didn't check typo errors. I didn't edit. I didn't do anything. I just wrote that stream of consciousness that came out. And in the morning, I remember I'd read it and go, wow, this is really good. Who wrote this? I will flip that book open still and go, wow, this is really good. And I don't brag or it's just like, these are words that came from more than my intellect, I guess I would say. Yes, there were parts where I had to, make things make sense to connect together. Mm-hmm. And I worked with a book designer, and we had a lot of work to do to make that all link up and flow well. Nana was more, I guess I got a little better at it. My kids were older, so they weren't around, and I had more time. I connected more with the nature spirits for that book, with the elementals, and I could maybe go out in the garden and talk. And because I worked so much with the 4 elements in that book, mm-hmm. I would just sit with water and talk with water or the earth, and tell me about healing and being with grief with this element, and how does that feel. And again, I was experiencing it at the same time because I was grieving, so I had the emotion very raw in me. So I was experimenting, and then I wrote about it, really. But I was working through my own emotions with that. And so there was a lot of more communication, and it was, I'd been on my spiritual path longer. I knew how to communicate with the nature spirits much clearer with that book than them having to wake me up in the middle of the night too. And I could easily turn it on and off. I can turn it on and off now. Like if I need to connect with them and write something, I can do that now. So it's kind of fine tuning.
Well, I remember one story, Minnie. I can't remember where you were flying to or from, but you were sharing with me that you made the realization that when you're on a plane flying to a destination, that you were actually able to write more and connect more. And you thought, and because you think, I'm not grounded. I don't have my 2 feet on the earth here. And yet you wrote some really fantastic things.
Yeah.
On that air flight.
Yeah. Part of Missing Nana was written on airplanes. I'm sure I haven't been flying much lately. No, although I just flew last weekend, and I noticed I see the elementals outside the window of the airplane. But only when we're really high up. Like when we were low down, when we were in the airport on the tarmac, they're not outside the window. when we're up even above, like Chicago, they're not outside the window. It's when we're really high up. And then I see them as these little pinpricks of light that kind of dance around. So, you know, I have fun with just seeing them that way too.
Right, right. So, you know, I wanted to thank you both for sharing so much about, you know, the process of the channeling and the vulnerability. I don't think that some of our listeners, people, our audience watching would have, you know, really connected that vulnerability as an author, especially if you think about an author in a mainstream kind of sense, you know. And as this author, once, let me ask you this question. All right, so you've written what you've written, you know you're going to publish this, and you work through, because let me tell you, audience, there are many, many steps to getting the manuscript.
Oh, yeah.
To actually having the proof copy in your hands. Lots that goes in between. And so when you were able to have your hands on your book for the first time in that proof copy, because that's usually when it happens, and you see your heartfelt work, you can hold it in your hands and see and feel and touch it. What was your reaction to that? Do you remember? So Minnie, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that.
Well, with Spirit Gardens, I was actually traveling. I was on vacation. I was working with a book designer, and she sent me the proofs to the hotel we were staying at because we were going to be there for 3-4 days. So she sent the proofs there, overnight shipping. And so actually I'm in an elevator and I'm opening it. And it was incredible. It was so beautiful. It felt so good. It was more than I had imagined it would be. You know, I mean, it was more beautiful. It was more colorful. There was more than I could ever imagine. Nana was very slimmer. I was at home though, and I got to be outdoors. And I remember opening outside on the porch, and I just remember like jumping up and down like a kid with that one. I just remember, you know, squealing. I think my daughter was home, and we were just, oh, it's so cute, it's so fun, and we immediately took pictures because I was in that energy of that childlike squealing. And I have those pictures, and that was really fun to capture that in photographs too. So
yeah,
it's great.
That's excitement about it, right? And I think later on it kind of sinks in. You know, look what I've done.
Yeah. Well, it sinks in later when you see it in a bookstore. You see the spine, and you're in the case, and you see it, or in the library here. I was just thinking how exciting it will be for me when I'm in the library with Luke and we're looking in the children's section and we come across my book, you know? Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've also donated copies of all of the books, all the authors' books, to our Toma local library with each one of the books. And so, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And Ortrun, what would you like to share? Because yours is much more fresh.
Well, you know, yours is more childlike, you know, Minnie, that, you know, and so I can see your squealing and so on. But I had my own squealing, you know, in some sense. But when I think of your books, you know, there's just so much more of that because you're dealing with the elementals and all kinds of things that are just so much, you know, oh wow, this is so cool and cute. Whereas my things are in some ways are a little bit serious, but I have to say, when I saw the book, and I have to say, even to this day, when I look at it, I think it feels really good. You know, other people too, they'll just put their hand on it and they'll say, oh my gosh, this book feels so good.
Yeah.
And so the people themselves are also picking up, there's something good in there. And as I'm saying it, because I'm holding my book right now, you know, it's giving me the chills, you know. So this this energy that was put into it, you could really feel it already. And ones that, well, probably many of the people that know me could maybe experience that too, or relate to that somewhat. But also people that, like our realtor, we sold our home all while this whole thing was going on, while this was being published, so on. And she bought, actually, we gave her one, but she also bought like 2 or 3 more to give us gifts. But that's what she did. She took it in her hand and she says, "Oh my gosh, this book feels so good." And so that was it was wonderful, to feel that, because I could feel the energy. And then my husband, Carl, when he read it, he was so sweet. But he still says it all the time about it. He said, after I was finished reading the book, I was sad it was over because I wanted more. And I thought, wow, that makes me feel so good. And even, I'm going to say, let's see, I just heard comments like that, every once in a while, so, and Paul, Neshi's husband too, because he was one of the proofreaders of it. And he remarked, or Neshi told me that he remarked, boy, he said, this book, I learned so much about the mystery schools, and it was so much fun.
Right.
So I got those 2 men, saying that right up front. I thought, oh wow, this is fantastic, So it was joyful, it was really joyful to have created this, And yeah, I think it's really an accomplishment. I think, and again, like I said, even for anyone that has any sense of possibly doing something like that, it really is worth it, in the long run. But I do suggest, that you go within, because it's so much easier that way. And like Minnie, she was able to communicate with all those elementals, and I was too. I know I was overlighted, as I was writing this book, and I know I was overlighted to say, okay, go and put some kind of footnote that this is where you got this from, just because I had things that.
Yeah. No, the one
that you don't know what you're talking about. So.
Well, the one thing that pops to my mind, Ortrun, is in the book there is a certain map
Yes.
of Nile that you wanted to use, and we did find one, but it wasn't quite what you wanted.
Right.
And so then you contacted somebody to ask them to assist you in tweaking it a bit.
That was my daughter. She helped me with that. Yes.
Yeah. And I remember you citing both her and also where we got it from.
Right.
Yeah.
So because I didn't feel, I was trying to, because in Egypt is actually a representation, I'm going to say, in symbolic representation of ourselves, of us. And there is a lower Egypt, there's an upper Egypt. And so I was trying to convey those things and how that connects, with us. So, but what's interesting to me about Egypt is that Upper Egypt, if you're looking at a map, when you're looking at Egypt, Upper Egypt is really the bottom part of Egypt, where Lower Egypt is the top part when we're looking at it on the map. So I find that interesting because we're looking at it. So here we are, we're standing erect, like the pyramid stands erect going up. And then Egypt is the opposite pyramid, the descending pyramid, representing the masculine, feminine, divine energies, and making up that Merkaba. That's really what's going on there, So that was a little bit hard to convey, with the maps that we had. And and also because I have a section there that very much, you travel along the Nile and visit the various temples, and the ones that represent the lower Egypt, which basically represents the part of us that connects to the earth. And then there's Upper Egypt. So I wanted to have some kind of visual so they could see where these places were located. So that's why I needed to do some tweaking.
Yeah, yeah, and it turned out really well. I just wanted to share with people that's what you meant about um, adding to that channeled work going that little bit extra is calling in some help, because we had the map, but it just needed to be um, streamlined a little bit more and putting in certain information that you got actually. So, so those kinds of things that happen when you're looking through the proof, because I remember in both an audience, both books, we had the proof. We had 5 different people proofing it, including the authors, and each one of the books needed sometimes just a tiny bit of a tweak, just move this a little bit more to the left or something like that. And then once we were completely done with it and we could actually put it out there to the public, um, I have to say that both authors, both of you, did so well in what I call switching hats. You went from being an author, a writer, to the person who is leading for the promotion and the selling, really, the marketing of your book, because both of you have done so well with that. Yeah, which is a lot of people may not even realize that when you're an author, you have to take some time as that other part of yourself to promote your book. And we help you with it, but really you're in the lead of it because you're the author. So I'm going to start with Ortrun first. What was it like for you when you did that hat switch?
Well, I'm a giver. I just as soon give everything away. So it was quite a switch for me. But first of all, it was wonderful that we did the promotions, and Neshi, she really helped us get started, with the promotions. So that was a really good thing. But then when we would have, well, what was hard about it was because this is all through the pandemic. So usually my husband and I, we do lots of, we do seminars, we travel to Florida, and we do different groups. And then it would be easier to, okay, I've got a book here. But but then that was not as good of an option, So really, almost everyone that I came across was really sort of willing, oh, really? Okay, well, they want, of course, there's always those. We have our friends that want to get the book and so on.
Right.
Just is really, really nice. And there were, even people from Florida, when we would say, oh, I wrote a book, and people would order 3, 4 of them, which was wonderful. Or someone would say, well, why don't you give me a few and I'll sell some down in Florida? And they would then sell them to their friends because they had little centers too.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really helpful. And I would mention it, not to everyone, because I felt, well, these people aren't really quite ready for it. But every once in a while, I'd mention it to someone that was not really into metaphysics. No, I'd love to have one of your books. Oh, all right. Well, okay. That's a little bit, those are stepping out. I would say stepping out, because to actually say, hey, I've got a book for sale here. Right.
Right.
And so, but then the other thing that Carl and I recently have actually started doing it, and Neshi, you helped us with that too at one point, was one time we did this promotion between like Carl's and my book.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I have a picture of Carl's and my book together. Uh-huh. And so really when we give a talk at any of the churches or so on, everything's been by Zoom right now. We say, we have this offer, so we can, if you get both of our books, we give them a really great deal, and we do.
Yeah.
So, and that many people jump on that, so that was another way that we have done that,
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm going to put a plug in here for my husband too, because our books really go well together.
They dovetail. They dovetail together.
They really dovetail because Carl has that visual out here, the outer picture. He's very broad, and as I said, his book was totally channeled word, like I said. and this is our personalities too. I'm the one that keeps us more grounded. Because if both of us were out there, we'd never get anything done, right? So
Ortrun, if you wouldn't mind after the show, if you wouldn't mind putting that picture that you have of both your books in the comments, so that anybody who's watching the video can see what you're talking about. That would really be helpful. And I also have your website link in the comments already, our spiritual ascension. And so if anybody wants to get both books together, they can do that. But then, they can see what the both books in your picture.
Okay. I don't even know how to do that. I don't know how to get this.
Well, so send me the picture and I'll post it for you. Okay.
Send you the picture. Okay.
Yeah. Just email it to me and I'll post it for you.
Okay. If Carl's, you have my book, but I'll just send you his book.
Yeah, well, actually, I thought you meant that you had a picture of them together.
Well, you have it someplace.
I gave it to you?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I will do that.
Okay.
I'll find it. And post it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll do that. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I can get that done. So, Minnie. So to you, that hat switch back.
Yeah. Well, I think the best advice an author gave me before my book was published, my first book even, was always have books in your car. Always have books that you can grab, wherever you are. Mm-hmm. And she was so right, because you'll just start talking to somebody on this, that you just met, and you find out they have a link with what you've done, and then you tell them about the book, and pretty soon you're in the trunk and you're making sales. So, but that wouldn't happen if you didn't have the books with you. So always have the books. And yes, they sell easier for me at workshops, and when people know me, they're more likely to want to know more and through the book. But it is pretty cool when, like off your website or, Amazon, they're buying book people you don't even know are buying your book. That was another leap of, oh my gosh, I'm getting famous in the world. This is crazy, but there was, there was one that just, for the missing Nana, one of my husband's, fellow co-workers, his wife was dying she had MS, and she was coming to the end of her life, and she was in hospice, and her husband bought the Nana book for her. And the family, he wrote and told me this story. He said, we had the book, Minnie, we had your book in the hospice room, the whole family was gathered round, and we read it. And everyone in the room loved it. And so that is my best story for Nana, is how, this children's book was really touching the hearts of this family, and this hospice patient, at the end of her life. I mean, that was truly sweet. Mm-hmm. To know. And and it's a constant, of selling the book, pushing the book. If there's a new bookstore in town, you got to get your butt down there and take your books. And it's kind of like a cold sale, as my husband would say, but you have to do it. And I have my books in several of the stores here in Loveland, doing just that on consignment. Sometimes they'll buy them outright, which is even better. But you do have to put yourself out there, and again, you're vulnerable, but what can they can say no. That's all you got to try. And I say 9 times out of 10, they say yes. So,
yeah, it's just actually making the question,
having the books in your car, right. and then asking the questions. Right. So, that part is just ongoing. It's just ongoing. And luckily that our topics, Ortrun's and our, it doesn't expire. It's
Right.
not going to get old. It's not a fad or a trend. The spiritual work that we do will, be read, several years from now and still make sense and still be relevant. So
Right, exactly. And so we only have a few more minutes left, and I want to final words. But the thing is that, what would you like to say to our audience, those people who have been kind of, maybe I should do a book, I'd like to do a book, or they've been talking about a book, or they've had it on their computer or longhand written for quite some time. What would you like to say to them? Ortrun?
Ortrun, okay.
Ooh.
I think go for it. Just go for it. Just do it. And as Minnie said, she channeled all of hers and she didn't even edit it or anything along the way. And write whatever you feel like you're writing. And everyone has so many beautiful experiences that they can share. And we can learn and grow from all of them, So know that you are so much more than you really believe that you are. Maybe, maybe you are. Maybe you really know that you're this amazing being. But most of us don't know that. But you are. And anything you put down on paper, know that is a gift for someone else, because there's someone else that's going to gain from what they read, the pages that you wrote. And you never know who you're going to be helping with that. And for me, I think most people that we know and are associated with, they're all ones that want to be of service. And so you can be of service by your writings, no matter whether it's an article or whether it is a book in itself. But you can write things, you can do your poems, you can do so many things, all the things that and but it does take a little bit of courage. I think that taking those first steps, it actually takes some courage to get going on it. And but really and truly, I certainly am supportive of you in that way, and I think that everyone that's here on the show is supportive of you, because express yourself. It's liberating. Like you were talking about a journal. That's very liberating.
Yes.
And that's what writing is. It's very liberating because it helps to bring out the deeper essences of yourself.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Ortrun. Oh my goodness. All right. And so, Minnie, what would you say?
Well, for me, writing doesn't have to be like you see in the movies where the guy sits down at the typewriter and starts writing his book, right? And then all the way, then he's at the end. For me, it was never that process. It was pieces here and there. Even I remember had a manila file folder with several files in it, and I would just write, maybe I'd write 3 or 4 sentences down about something that came to me. It might even be on a napkin or something, whatever I had. And I just put it in that file folder, and one day, like for Spirit Gardens, I took all those pieces out and arranged them and saw that I had chapters of a book, information for each chapter. So it didn't come in a linear fashion at all. It came in downloads from different places. But what's also fun is when you have those pieces is to get them in your own, like make your own format of a book, to see it in book form, to make it look real for you. So print it out, put it in order, print it out, staple it together and look at it as a book. Like Missing Nana, when I worked with a beautiful illustrator, I want to give kudos to Christine Pollock for the beautiful art that she did for my book. And she worked so diligently with me and what photos were in my mind to get them on the paper. But she did that because it was helpful for her to see where the book was flowing. So she put it all in a PowerPoint with the art and the words next to it. And I could print it out and I could see it as a book. And that was really fun and made it real. But it doesn't have to all come from A to B to C to D. It can come all over the place. And then you put it together like a puzzle. It's fun. So
Okay.
It's okay to write 3-4 sentences, you don't have to write a chapter at a time.
And I think that's perfect. Because I think that a lot of times many of us who kind of lean in that direction of writing, a lot of times we end up with, an outline, a couple of sentences, maybe a couple bullet points even, and then we just start filling it in. So, I just wanted to thank you both for making time for us this evening and sharing with us about your babies, I was going to call them, your books. And yeah, because, you created them. And so, and I appreciate it. I do. And I hope our audience does as well. I'm going to say just a little parting words to our audience. I'm going to take you down into the lobbies. Okay. So here we go. And all of these things that I have to do. Hang on. There we go. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to thank everybody for joining us this evening for this chat with our authors. I know that we were going to have Julie Hedges and Madonna De Palo on as well, but both ladies couldn't make it. Okay, for one reason or another. And I'm going to have them on a different night so that we can have a nice chat with them in person. So join me for that. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to happen. I have to schedule it with them. And so, but I do appreciate you guys being here this evening and listening to these two women who, courageous women, who decided that they wanted to extend their services through a book. So with that, Bama Mina, that means in Potawatomi, until we see each other again, I love you guys. Yeah, I'm going to say good night.